So whenever I have, so what we looked at if I have a monomial, right, multiplied by y, right? You guys remember that? You remember the terminology? So I have a monomial multiplied by a binomial. What if I have two binomials multiplied by each other? Okay, so I have, instead of having only a, I have a plus b multiplied by c plus d. We're going to use a term, an acronym called FOIL. And the FOIL, F-O-I-L, is an acronym for the following. First, so first means you're multiplying your first term by your first term. Okay? So that means you're multiplying a times c. That's your first. Okay? So that would be a C. O stands for outer. Okay? So your outer terms. Can you guys, out of the A plus B and then C plus D, can you tell me which ones are your outer terms? So the outer terms. A and D. These are your outer terms because they're outside. Okay? So then you're gonna multiply A times D. I stands for inner. B and C, so they're the inside terms. And the last one, which would be last, so it's your last two terms. So remember, these are your first two terms, right, in each bracket, and then these are your last two terms in each bracket. So then it's going to be this times this, which is B, D. Okay? So you're always going to do that. It's also called a rainbow, if you look at it, right? So first, which is the first term times the first term. Outer, which is your outer two terms. Inner, which is your two inner terms, B and C. And then last, which is your last term in each bracket. Is that clear for everyone? Okay, so first, inner, first, outer, inner, last. Okay, let's see if we can do this example together. So 2a plus 4b multiplied by negative 3a minus 2b. What's the first thing that I have to multiply together? 2a and negative 3a. So that gives me what? So negative 6a squared. Because a times a is a squared. Good. What would be my outer terms?
2a minus 2b.
2a times negative 2b. So that's going to give me what?
Negative 4a.
Good. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, right? So negative 4a times b. Are we okay with this?
Yes.
What would be my inner terms? Yeah. So 4b minus 3a times negative 3a. So it's going to be negative 12. BA or AB is the same thing, right? If you multiply 2 times 3 or 3 times 2, what do you get?
6.
6. Multiply 5 times 2 and 2 times 5, you get 10. So no matter which order you write them, A, B, or BA, it's going to give you the same thing. Okay? So the reason I write it AB here is because I want you to look to see that we have actually like terms. Okay? We're going to see that in the next
It was
step.
adding maybe different variables.
Even if you're adding, if you add 5 plus 6 or 6 plus 5 is the same thing, right? If you do a plus b or b plus a is the same thing. If you're subtracting, then no, it's not. You can't do, so a minus b is not the same as b minus a, right? But a plus b is the same as b plus a times b is the same as b times a. Yeah? Okay, now, and the last. So what am I multiplying for the last? So that's negative 8
B squared.
b squared. Okay? So after you do this, you're going to look at your 4 terms. You're always going to get 4 terms. You're going to look at your 4 terms, and then you're going to collect like terms. In this case, what are my like terms? That's right. They're like terms because they have the same letter and they have the same exponent, right? A, B. So, negative 6a squared stays the same. Negative 4ab minus 12ab is negative 16ab. And then minus 8b squared. What I did right now is I multiplied, okay? Multiplied 2 binomials together. We call this process expanding. So the question would be expand and simplify. Okay, I'm going to write it down. So it's expand and simplify. So what we did here in the first line, we expanded, and what we did in our second line, we simplified by collecting like terms.
Does it matter how you break it?
In terms of,
Like,
in terms of order, which one goes first?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter. But then later on, when we actually do the quadratic, you want it to be in order because the order matters in terms of if you want to graph or things like that. Okay? But if you write negative ab squared minus 16ab minus 6a squared, it's the same. Okay, let's do that one together. What do I multiply first? 2x squared by 3x. So that's my first. That's going to be 6
X
cubed. Yeah. Then. So my outer. 2x squared times 5, that's going to be 10x squared. Then, what's after the outer? So my inner. So negative x times 3x, that's negative 3x squared. And then the last, is negative 5. Are you guys okay with this? No? So what part is no? Like how am I getting the answers? How am I getting 6x cubed? Or like, okay. So if you're looking at this, so you have 2x squared times 3x. Right? You multiply your coefficient, so you multiply the numbers together. So 2 times 3 gives you 6. Right? And then for the exponent, because it's the same letter, you add the exponent. So it becomes x3. For which one? For this one? It's an invisible one. Anytime that doesn't have an exponent, it's an invisible.
And if that was just x to the exponent 1, there would be an invisible 1 in front of the x.
That's right. That's right. So if you have a term that looks like this, you have an invisible 1 here as a coefficient, and you have an invisible 1 at the exponent. Okay? So let's look at the second term. So I have 2x squared, so the blue one. 2x squared times 5. Right? you just have to multiply the 2 by the 5 because these are your numbers, so that gives you 10 x squared. Are we okay with that? The green one, I have negative x times 3x. So what's my coefficient for this one? Negative 1. Yeah. So negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. X times x is x squared, because you add your coefficient, they're gonna the exponent, they're gonna give you 2. Does it make sense now?
Add the exponent when you're multiplying, and
That's
just
right.
subtract the exponent when you're dividing.
That's right. We're gonna get to that in a whole new lesson. Yes. And then your last term is negative x times 5. So if you're looking at negative x times 5, that's a negative 1. Times 5, that's negative 5. And then x stays the same. Now, do I have any like terms?
Yes.
What are they? So 10x squared and minus 3x squared. So the first I'm going to write as is. These two are going to be positive 7x squared. Because when you're adding, you just have to, adding or subtracting, you just have to deal with a coefficient. Your letter, your variable is going to stay the same. And then minus 5x. Okay, I'm going to do the next part of the lesson, and then I will let you guys do more practice. What I would like you to do, guys, when you're doing the practice, get together in groups if you want. Okay, don't be like individual. Work together in groups because you learn from each other. Okay? Teamwork, yeah, you learn from each other.
There's no I in team.
Exactly. Can I go to the next? All right. This is solve. So basically when the word says solve, that means you're looking for a value for your letter. Okay? Solve means find the value of the letter that satisfies the equation, right? It has to satisfy the equation. So the first thing you want to do, number one, you're going to use BEDMAS backward. Okay, you remember BEDMAS? Bracket, exponent, division, multiplication, whatever appears first. Addition and subtraction. I went with that, over that with you guys, right? Did I?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to use it backward because we're going to have to isolate for a term. So you have to, let's say you have the letter D here, right? You want to leave D here by itself, and then you want to move everything to the other side. You want to get rid of everything. D is stinky. Everyone wants to get away from it. Okay? That's a whole thing. So we're going to have to use BEDMAS backward. We're going to do opposite operation to undo the operation. Okay, so if you're adding, what do? Subtract. If you're multiplying, what do? Divide. If you're dividing, what do? Multiply. If you have square, what do? Square root. The opposite of square is square root. Okay? So let's look at how to do it. So eliminate fractions by multiplying each term in the equation by the LCN. Do you guys know what LCN stands for? Multiple. Yeah. So eliminate fractions by multiplying each term in the equation by the least common multiple. Eliminate any brackets by using the distributive property. rearrange the equation to isolate the variable and so on. So let's see what that is. Let's look at the first example. What do I have? I have 12 divided by m equals to 3. What letter am I going to be solving for? M. That's my only letter. If I want to solve for m, where should it be? In the denominator or in the numerator? In the numerator. You can't solve for m while it's down there. It will be a solution for m, will be a solution for 1 over m. What's your first instance? What do you want to do? Like when you look at this, what do you want to do?
Want to find out.
You want to find m, but what do you do? What process?
Isolated.
Isolate it. How do you do that?
Like
Multiply what? Can you think about what you learned before? When you have 12 over m equals to 3 over 1, what do you want to do?
Cross multiply.
Cross multiply, right? You want to cross multiply because you don't want that m at the bottom. Okay? By cross multiplying, I'm doing 12 times 1 and 3 times m, correct?
Yes.
So that's going to be 12 equals to 3m. Right? So what I did is I cross multiply. Do you guys understand cross multiply? You can do cross multiply when you have an equal sign and you have fractions. Okay, that's a rule that you learned a long time ago, right? So by doing this, where's my m now? Numerator or denominator? Numerator is on the top, right? Denominator is right here if I want to look at it. Denominator is right here, right? It's 1. Good. Now, m is not by itself. What's happening to the m?
Multiplication.
It's multiplied by 3. We all know that?
Yeah.
You all know that m is multiplied by 3. But I don't want that 3. What happens? Divide both sides by 3. Right? Opposite operation of multiplication is division. Okay? So so you can do 12 divided by 3 equals 10. Right? So you're going to imagine that what you're doing is you're dividing both sides by 3 if you want. So you can see it this way if you're a visual person, or you can think about it as you're moving the 3 over and it becomes a division. Whatever you're more comfortable. Because some people learn it that way, and some people learn it that, okay, I have 12 equals 3m. I'm just going to move the 3 over. It's going to become 12 divided by 3 because it's a multiplication.
So m equals 4?
So m equals 4, yeah.
Like you said, when we use this cross multiplications.
So you want to use a cross multiplication whenever your letter is in the denominator.
Like when you have two fractions, but
Two
like,
fractions and with an equal in between them.
that's the only time you
Yeah.
use this cross multiplication.
You must have an equal between them. Otherwise, so whenever you have this, that's the only time you can use cross multiplication. If you have this, let's say, you can't use cross multiplication, right? Let's look at B. What letter you want to isolate for?
D.
D. What's the first thing you want to do? Multiply 7, right? You want to multiply by 7, so you want to cross multiply that 7. Right? Do you guys see that I have a 1 here? Right? So you can also think about this as cross multiply if you want. Okay? So I'm multiplying this by this and this by this. Are we okay with this? Because
How do you get 2D only, 2D plus 1 to get 2D?
I did not. Okay, now, you're isolating for D. What's the next thing you want to get rid
To
of?
move the 1 you have to the other side, it gets
Yeah.
minus 1.
That's right. You want to get rid of that. Remember that I'm doing bed mass,
Should use
but in the reverse, right? So in this case, I'm adding 1. So when I have to bring it over, it becomes a minus 1. Okay? So 2 equals 21 minus 1. What's after that?
Divide both sides by divide.
Divide by 2, right? Because you want to get rid of that 2 times D. So it's going to be D equals 20 over 2, which is 10.
When you do it before, it looks cool, but when you do it before, like, it's so complicated.
Because you guys complicate it. It's easy. Okay, I'm gonna help you with the C. Let's see if you guys can do the rest. So what's the first thing you want to do for C?
Simplify the brackets.
You want to get rid of the brackets, right? You can't move things around with brackets. It's kind of like you're tied up, okay? You want to release it. So, if I want to remove the brackets here, what do I have to do? Remember the distributive property that we did earlier? Right, multiply that -3 by each term. So you're going to get -3x minus 6. And then this -3x stays the same because there is nothing multiplied by. There's nothing, it's just like.
8 minus.
8 minus 20. So you see what happened right now? They're free. They can move around. The terms can move around because they're not in brackets, they're not tied up anymore. Okay? So the goal is you want like terms together. I've explained this earlier, didn't I? Yeah. So like terms have to be on one side, and then the variables, not the variables, I mean the constants have to be on the other side. Okay? So you want to put the x's together and the numbers together. Let's do that. So I have -3x and -3x, they're gonna. And then I'm gonna have to move that 20x, -20x over. When I move it over, what does it become?
Plus. Plus 6.
8.
Equal to 8 plus 6.
That's right. And then I want to move that -6 over, so it's going to become plus 6. So what I did in this step is I moved all the like terms to one side. So all the x's to one side and all the numbers to the other side. Now,
What's that process called?
this is more like simplifying. Collecting, you can say, I'm going to say moving like terms to the same side. Now, -3x minus 3x, -6x plus 20
14.
equals to, what's 8 plus 6?
14.
Okay?
Divide both
So
sides.
that's a 1.
X is 1 because I divide by 14 because I want to get rid of it. And that's. So what we did, we used what we learned earlier today to solve, right? So we used the distributive property, right? We used collecting like terms, to solve for our unknown? What?
I don't know how we're supposed to know to divide by 14.
Because what's happening between the 14 and the x?
Multiply.
So what's the opposite of that?
Dividing.
Exactly. You always want the letter by itself with nothing with it. Like, has to be by itself. Okay? So you need to get rid of everything else.
Thank you.
Okay, now. What do I want to do here? You can, but there's an easier way. I have an equal sign, and I have two fractions. Say cross multiply, right? There's an equal sign, you can do cross multiply. The minute that you don't have that equal sign, then we'll worry about it, okay? But because I have an equal sign, I can just simply cross multiply, right? So that's going to be 4 times y minus 7 equal to 3 times y minus 2. Now I'm going to stop this. You're going to solve this because it's now similar to what we just did at a little bit easier level.